LCARA HAMRadio presents a Time Machine Tuesday vintage video release. Welcome to Lake Cumberland Amateur Radio Association. You can find us at LCARA.net, on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Instagram. If you're enjoying the videos we're producing here at LCARA, please help our club out by hitting that subscribe button. Also, give us some feedback on our videos. Click the like button, share with anybody who may find it interesting, and be sure and hit the bell icon to make sure you get notified of the next video release.
Hello, this is Chris, KY4CKP.
And I'm KY4BDP Brian.
And we're here today for Lake Cumberland Amateur Radio Association, and we're going to talk about other radios.
Other radios. Like, you know, once you get your ticket, you're a technician, a general, or an amateur extra, and you're thinking, I wouldn't touch radios that I don't have to get a license. Those are just for kids. Well, no, they actually make real radios that at least one member of the family would have to be licensed, not everybody, and there are some frequencies you can use where nobody has to be licensed, but you'd still like to have that two-way communication, especially when you're hiking or fishing or camping or whatever. So yeah, there's a use case, isn't there, Chris?
That's right. Again, think about your daily life. We are always around people who are not licensed. Typically, our spouses may not be, your children may not be, friends and family may not be, but with many of the options available, either no license is required or a single person of the family can get the license and the family is covered by that license. So there are some attractive options here that give you similar characteristics to some of the less expensive amateur radios, but you don't have to have the ticket.
No, and no test to take, right, Chris? I mean, I don't have to, you know, get a book or take those tests online and try to get my technician's license. I guess all they really want is your money.
That's pretty much it. $70 for 10 years, and you get the family license for GMRS, the General Mobile Radio Service. We'll also mention FRS, Family Radio Service, and we'll go ahead and mention, for good luck, MURS, multi-use, mobile use radio service. Mobile and family radio services, they don't need a license at all. GMRS is a little higher power and just requires you to purchase the license from the FCC.
Right. And great use cases for this. And again, think about how many times you've got people in your family who don't have a license. Now, what we're going to highlight today are just a few radios that have this capability. The Baofangs, both here on the left and on the right, can actually listen and transmit on those frequencies. It is not really a gray area. You really shouldn't use those, though, for FRS in particular because of the removable antenna and some other things. Some of these radios come in much too high a power for FRS, right, Chris?
That's true. Now, you can always listen, right? Listening is free, and these can be programmed, and you can listen to those channels. But when it comes time to push the push-to-talk button, you should have a part-certified radio from the FCC, and there's plenty of options to choose from. Midland is a huge brand that almost everybody's going to know. Motorola is a big brand. And interestingly enough, Baofeng, BTECH, they make actual part-certified GMRS radios.
Who knew?
Who knew?
Who knew? The Motorola that I have today is the T800. This is a pair of radios, but you can also Bluetooth connect your phone to these radios to do locations and things like that. Whereas I think the BTECH is mainly just the GMRS FRS, but it can do the privacy tones and all that stuff, right?
It can do that. It can receive the NOAA Weather Channel information and alerts, and has FM radio built in, as most Baofengs do, a little flashlight. Most of the things you're used to with almost any other Baofeng, it's just been sort of cut down specifically for the GMRS part of the band specifically.
Right. So when we get back in the next segment, what we're going to do is unbox the Motorola's and the BTECH so you can kind of see what comes in these. And then in some additional segments, we're actually going to test these out because, Chris, how far do these boxes say they can transmit?
Well, some of the boxes you may look at may say 36 miles or something equally ridiculous, 28 miles or something. In a perfect vacuum scenario in space, maybe that's true.
On top of a mountain?
On top of a mountain, but I don't live there. So in more regular everyday use, you're typically looking at half a mile to 2 to 5 miles. There's going to be a lot of things that can vary your distance. So we want to do some testing and see what some of the variables are that can affect that. We'll do that in those later segments. But for a lot of activities, these can be a good option.
I agree. So we'll be right back in the next segment for the unboxings.
All right, folks, we're back here in the next segment, and we're going to do a quick unboxing for the BTECH GMRS-V1, based on the 82 model, if you're familiar with that model. Looks just like it, strangely enough. So we're just going to open it up real fast, take a quick look. We'll open up the Motorola units, and then we'll move on into some testing. So what do we have? A nice retail package here. A real manual. Wow. You don't always see those anymore, but it's a real live manual. We have the earplug cable. I'm going to guess pretty much the same kinds of accessories you would get with a regular Bofang. There's your rubber ducky antenna. We've got the charging AC adapter, the cradle. Maybe hard to keep all that in focus. There's your belt clip. And of course, the star of the show is the radio. Looks pretty much just like the regular 82 model. Again, it's just been specialized for GMRS. And of course, we have the battery. We can get that. So full-size battery, of course, slip on the back. So that's what we get in this. That's probably about it. Yep, that's about it. It's a nice regular retail packaging for this. Looks great. Looks just like almost any other radio. So we'll be doing some testing on this here in just a little bit, but we'll also go ahead and do a quick unboxing for the Motorola units.
Alrighty, so now let's take a look at the Motorola T800. Again, this is the packaging that I got straight from Amazon, so this has not been opened. All I've done is broken the seal on the back to make this unboxing a little bit easier. So what we'll do is we'll open this up. I'll try to keep this in frame where you guys can see it. And you know how some of the packaging can be. It can be a little bit difficult to keep everything in frame here, but we're going to try our best here to do that. What do we got here? We got a small, dinky little manual. So not huge by any stretch. We've also got some stickers in here for some different things that we may want to label the radios with. And then we've got talk about radio accessories. Alrighty, so not going to worry too much about the packaging there. And then we've got this really small little manual here for the radio itself. Now, what a lot of people do is they'll go online and maybe get the PDF for this manual, because a lot of companies, they've been really kind of chintzing out a little bit on the manuals to cut down on costs. Then we've got the bubble packaging here, if you will. Well, maybe not bubble, but plastic. And you can see we've got two radios here. Now, I got the blue ones. These come in different colors. In this particular case, you can also get different versions of these that are a little bit more waterproof and whatnot. But we'll move this plastic over here. So we've got the first radio. We've got the second radio. Now, you'll notice right away on these radios, the antenna on these. This is one of the reasons why, from a distance standpoint, a signal strength standpoint, they're not going to be the best, because these antennas are shortened like this, and so they're just not going to receive as well, and they're just not going to have the range as well. This one's got a sticker on it to kind of give you an idea of what the display would look like. And then here's the back of the radio. Now, these actually have a built-in lithium battery and a flashlight. And I'm not going to open this right now because, to be quite honest, I haven't opened one of these before. But in any event, you can charge these with a USB, so they're easy to charge. What else do we have? We've got the power adapter, and you can see we've got the USB end here, and we've got a USB end here, so you can actually charge both of these at the same time, which is kind of nice. Put that over here. We've got the batteries, Motorola branded in this case. So we've got two of those to go with the radios, and we've got the battery or the radio clip so that you can actually clip this on your belt or something like that. Turn it over. you can actually clip this on your belt, and that way it'll be out of your way. And the great thing about small antennas is that they're not whipping you in the armpits and things like that. So we've got some clips to go with them. And for the most part, that is the Motorola packaging and what comes with the Motorola's. And what we're going to do next is we're going to take these and start testing them. So we'll see you in the next segment. All right, so now in this next segment, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drive off and I'm going to go to a tenth of a mile, 0.1, and we're going to test the radios. We know the radios are communicating. We're also using a DCS code for privacy, if you will. On the HAMRadio bands, DCS would be the digital way to either receive or transmit, or both, to specific radios that are tuned into that DCS, which is a digital code. Now on these GMRS FRS radios, this is known as a privacy code, or sometimes in the documentation on the Motorola's it's known as an interference code, but it's essentially a way so that you're only talking to the people that you want to talk to without getting bleed in from somebody else. So let's drive 0.1, a tenth of a mile, and see how these radios do.
All right, this is Chris, KY4CKP. We're going to do some testing with these GMRS FRS radios. We've got the Motorola's, we've got the BTECH GMRS-V1, and then we've also got just a regular UV5R type radio just to see what the reception is like. So KY4BDP Brian's going to drive out about a tenth of a mile, and we'll do our first check from there. Going to start off with the BTECH GMRS-V1.
This is WRDH 605 testing.
And this is WRES 843 testing. You're loud and clear.
Roger, roger. Okay, I'm going to go to 0.3 miles and then we'll test again. Over.
Let's go ahead and check the 800s real quick while we're here.
All right, go ahead and switch to the 800.
Sounds like we're still coming in loud and clear.
So that's on both radios?
Roger, roger.
All right, driving to 0.3 miles. Over.
So KY4BDP, if you didn't hear that, he's going to go out to 0.3 miles. Everything was working loud and clear at 0.1. To be expected, this is a fairly common type neighborhood, single and double story buildings, with just some very minor hills right here. Once we reach the edge of reception, I'll replace the antenna that came with the V1 with a better antenna, and we'll see if that has any noticeable effect on how far the radio can receive at that point.
So far, this is at 0.3. He's coming in loud and clear on the 800.
Hey, WRES 843 testing the BTECH GMRS-V1.
Roger, roger. You were a little bit louder on the T800 and a little bit lighter, but still very copyable on the BTECH.
Seem to be getting just a little bit of noise now and then. Your voice is coming through strong. I think we're starting to pick up a little bit of the distance.
Roger, roger. Now I'm going to move to half a mile. Now we're at a half a mile. Let's see if he can copy me. WRDH 605, over.
Definitely a little bit of static happening right now, but I wasn't able to copy.
Roger, copy you as well. Switch to the other radio.
I did transmit, but I didn't get much but static on that one. Let me switch over if you're able to copy to the BTECH V1 and see what we get on that one.
Roger, roger.
Yes, 843 testing the V1. This is a little over half a mile, about 0.6.
Going to switch over the antenna to a Nagoya. See if that makes a noticeable difference. All right, this is the GMRS-V1 on the Nagoya antenna. WRES 843 testing.
Roger, WRDH 605, I copy you just fine. How am I coming in now?
Yeah, much quieter, almost full quiet once again, so definitely a much better reception with this other antenna.
Switch back to the T800, let's try it one more time.
WRES 843 back on the BTECH V1 with the Nagoya antenna. Didn't seem to catch you on those last transmissions on the T800.
So you're unable to pick me up at all on the T800 at, say, 0.6?
Roger, I wasn't getting any kind of blip or static or anything at that time, but with this Nagoya on the V1, it's still a pretty good strong signal.
All right, I copy you really well. Let me go 0.7 with the BTECH with the Nagoya, so give me about 3 minutes.
All right, so anytime you can upgrade your antenna, we've said this in videos on the the Baofangs or any radio, whether it's a Yaesu or Kenwood or anybody. A good quality upgraded antenna makes a world of difference. The rubber duckies are just only so good, and they'll get you around maybe half a mile, maybe less. Depends on your terrain. This is a fairly common neighborhood, but this antenna is still going good and strong. So we'll do some further testing with it. Came in through that time, again, a little bit of static, but definitely a copy. Let me try the longer antenna at this range, since we're definitely getting a little bit of static with both the units. So give me just a moment. Switch over.
Roger, roger. This is a little over half a mile, about 0.6.
This is the GMRS-V1 on the Nagoya antenna. WRS 843 testing.
Roger, roger. WRDH 605. I copy you just fine. How am I coming in now?
Yeah, much quieter, almost full quiet once again, so definitely a much better reception with this other antenna.
Switch back to the T800. Let's try it one more time.
4-3, back on the Baofeng Tech V1 with the Nagoya antenna. Didn't seem to catch you on those last transmissions on the T800.
All right, so you're unable to pick me up at all on the T800 at, say, 0.6?
Roger, I wasn't getting any kind of blip or static or anything. Nagoya on the V1, it's still a pretty good strong signal. Roger, roger. Heard you. I've got the regular Baofeng out with its rubber ducky and the Baofeng V1. They both received you. Regular Baofeng, not quite as nice as the V1 with the 771. Let's try the T800 one more time. Give me just a moment and let me get it turned on.
WRDH 605, yeah, I texted my
Okay, that time I'm getting on the T800. It's a little scratchier than the V1, but it was definitely still copyable. Just a little bit cleaner on the V1. So a little bit of elevation seemed to help with that transmission. WRES 843. Partial copy on that. Pretty scratchy, lots of pops. Actually, that just came through fairly clear on the T800.
605, do you copy?
So that last transmission was reasonably clear on the V1. Previous transmission, or maybe two transmissions, sound like there was an attempt in there, was reasonably clear on the T800. But very last transmission, didn't hear anything on the T800.
All right, so what I've done is I've walked a decent amount. This is a little over 2 miles. I've got power lines in front of me. I don't have a lot of, shall we say, confidence. But let's give it a try, and let's see if the radio can push through. And we're on high power, and still using the privacy code, or DCS, if you will. And let's see if Chris can at least copy me. WRDH 605, do you copy?
Very last transmission, didn't hear anything on the T800.
Roger, roger. Well, for today, we'll call this the outer limits for this neighborhood. Do you copy? So we'll end it here. I don't think we're going to get much distance here. We'll probably need to try these out down where I live. The hills are higher, and some of the valleys are longer. And when you're in town like this, it's difficult to do. But probably you're looking at reasonably good reception at about 1.5 miles with these. And if you were out in the woods, in a park, on a lake, you're going to get better distance than what I'm getting today. But 1.5 with a very inexpensive radio that you don't even have to have a license to use on some of the channels that are already pre-programmed, the FRS. But if you have a GMRS license, you can use all the channels on here, and you can go up to 5 watts, which is full power on these. So we'll stop it there, and we'll do our last segment when I get back. Well, Chris, walked a little bit, drove a little bit. Well, I did. How did it turn out?
I would say it turned out about the way I would have expected, but it's always a good idea to test your hypothesis. It's never a good idea to make assumptions. And I was pleasantly surprised with how well the T800s did to have that built-in rubber ducky antenna. They did surprisingly well, and would poke through the longer distances on occasion, even so. So as we said earlier, these kinds of radios, when you have members of your party who are not licensed amateurs, you know, with a GMRS family license or with FRS and MERS, you don't have to have licensing. It's a way to get everybody on the air.
And in the BTECH, did you have the rubber ducky on, or did you have the Nagoya on that?
We did some testing with the V1 both ways. Early on, we tested with the rubber ducky, which was not terribly great. And then we switched over to the Nagoya, and that was much better, much better distances, cleaner audio for longer, until we just hit the kind of absolute maximum limit of this terrain for about 4 or 5 watts.
I mean, I think based on what we said in the introduction, you know, if you're on a lake where you've got people scattered in and around a lake, it's pretty flat, a lot of line of sight, no problem with these radios. I can see them getting out further than we got today. Especially if you had a flat surface or a relatively flat surface. Now, if you got up on one of these hills here in eastern Kentucky and you were looking down a valley, for instance, you could hit a pretty long way. And the box says that, mountain to valley, you could be looking at 30 miles. You know, if you could get anywhere from 2 to 5 miles when you're out camping, hiking, it'll be less if you've got hills in front of you. Yeah. That's the thing, folks. Without a repeater, you know, this is not going to go through a hill or a low mountain here in eastern Kentucky. But if you know what your limitations are, you get up on one of these ridges or something like that, you're going to really help yourself out as far as being able to hit radio to radio. Well, Chris, I had a good time at least testing these out, and I think we've covered it pretty well.
Yeah, it's always good to get some new equipment and play around and test it out. There's more to those 800s that probably deserve its own video for sure.
Right.
Maybe even this V1, although it's similar in its capabilities to regular Baofeng type radios. So we may do some of that. May even do some further testing down with our repeater, just to show that in action.
Right. We could show the Bluetooth cell phone thing, because you can use these radios as a modem between 2 phones for showing where you are on a map. Plus, we can also show repeater use and so forth. So that could be a part 2 coming up.
So that's probably about it for this one. I'm Chris, KY4CKP.
And I'm Brian, KY4BDP, for the Lake Cumberland Amateur Radio Association.
73.